Hi guys, welcome to this session in Microsoft Access. In this module, I want to show you how you can create a simple sales database. Nothing complicated, straightforward sales database, creating tables, queries, forms, and reports. So on this screen in PowerPoint, I have the outline of what I want to do in terms of table design. So I'm going to have a table of customers, customer ID, name, address, city, telephone, and obviously you can add extra things in there if you so wish. A table of products, which is going to be product ID, product quantity and price, and then a table of sales, which will have the sales ID, customer ID, product ID, quantity and date of purchase, and then queries that will look at this and pull off the information. So that's what I want to create first of all in Access. So I've got myself into Access. I just want to call this Sales 23 and create a database. That's a blank database. Now when you first get into Access, it comes up with this sort of preview, like a table ready to go. But what I want to do is go into design and create the structures that I've just shown you. So if I go into design, it will ask me to save this table, and I'll do the customers table first. TBL customers is a qualifier that you use for tables. Okay, and then that will take me into design. Now it's already given me a primary key, which is a unique identifier, but it's just calling it ID. I don't want it to just be called ID. I want this to be called customer ID. It's on auto number, which is fine. It means that every time I add a new record, a number will be generated. So then going off the PowerPoint slide, I want a customer field. So this is going to be customer name. Now when you type it in, you don't. The naming convention is not to have spaces. Pressing tab key. Short text is what it will be. This description area is optional, but if it's not obvious what the field is, you should type some information in there to let other users know what that is. So customer name, address, and I'll just come down. This time it's automatically going to put short text in there. City and tel. Those are the fields I want, and I'm not going to do any more than that because I don't want to waste loads of time doing lots of extra fields, but you can add extra fields obviously. Now in there, if you look, there are options, other data type options. This is a data type column. It's quite important if you're going to do any calculations that you need to set it to the right data type. So currency may be the one you want to look at in a different table, but for now this is all the fields I want. Now for each of these fields up here, you have properties down the bottom there. Now the default size is 255, which basically means that Access will allocate 255 characters no matter what. You can adjust that to be a more accurate figure. So I'm just going to put that down to 50. And address is also set at 255. I'll go for 100 on there. And if you chop this too short, it will actually truncate this. So you've got to be careful. Some addresses are quite long. Cities are not that long though. I'll go 50 for that as well. If you do this, it's going to save space in your database and allow. I'm going to go 25 for the telephone number. I don't think there's any numbers more than 25, but there might be, and I'm not. Don't quote me. But you're saving space and you're saving load up time when you've got a lot of data. If you do that, you've also got validation rules, default value. For example, if you think everybody that you're going to do business with is going to be in the same city, you could put the default value, for example, to Newcastle, and that will already be there before you have to type. And then you've got all these other features like that. Now, for now, I'll just save that. And once you've saved that, you can have a view, and it's ready to go for some data. But before I do any data, let's just get into this. Close that down. Create a new one. So you go create. So this is going to be the products table. You've got table or table design. Table design is where we were. I'm just going into that as well. So now it's going to be product ID. Spell it right. Product ID. Now this one, I'm going to go for auto number as well, but it isn't a primary key. The reason the other one was automatically set there is because that was the first table that you get when you first come into Access. So I need to set this one manually. So then it's going to be product, and then quantity, and then price. Now price needs to be set to currency, so I just tabbed and then pressed the letter C and it put it in there for me. So it's set to currency, and that's all I need for now. You may want to come back into this at a later time and just check you've got the right amount of fields in here, but I'm just going through the process at the moment. It might not be an exact science I'm doing, but this is what you have to do. Then you get some data, you test it, see if it works, and then you move on. So I need to save this one. So save, this is going to be TBL products. TBL products, okay. Have a quick look at that. So that's ready to be filled in. Close that one down, and then the sales table is the last one I want to do in this little video. So create table design. So this is going to be sales ID, and it's going to be auto number as well, and it's also going to be a primary key. That is a unique identifier. So then you need customer ID. This is like a joining table. This is going to be a number field, even though it's auto number on another one, it's just a number field in this one. And then product ID. This is how you join everything together with this joining table. It's really important that you get the data types matching. So whatever you've set them in there, it needs to be the same here. So product ID, quantity, this is the sales quantity, and then I want date of purchase, date of purchase, and that needs to be a date time field. On date time fields you should do what's called an input mask, so people can only select that date. Now it's going to want me to save this before I do this, so I'll call this TBL sales. This is going to be the joining table, sales. So input mask on this line, 3 little ellipses, click on that. I want short date, and that's what it's going to look like, so nobody can actually type anything other than that. I can just go finish there. It puts a series of zeros, but that doesn't matter. They just mean the 0 means it must have entry, so you can't put 1 stroke 1. It would want the 0 leading 0, so you'd have to do it like that. So I don't need a default rule for any of this. I'm just going to leave that as it is, save, and have a quick look. So there's the zeros from the customer ID field. Now what I need to be able to see in the customer ID and the product ID, if I'm going to just use this table, I need to do some lookups, I think. So if I go back into design, on the customer ID field, I'm going down to lookup, and I'm going to select, this is so I can pick a customer from the sales table, combo box. It is a table and query, and I want to look at the table called customers in this example, customers. Now the first column is bound, but I can have more than one column displayed, so it's going to be customer ID is the first column, the second column is a customer name, and then it's his address. So I only actually need the 2 columns. I think I can come back and change this if I need to. Column widths I'm going to go for 2 centimeters, and list width altogether I'll go for 6 centimeters. Probably should have put 4 there, but never mind. You can limit it to the list, which is not a bad thing, because then it'll stop people typing in a customer ID that doesn't exist. But I'm just going to leave that as it is at the moment, and then I need to repeat that process for the products ID field. So that needs to look up at the products table. So combo, it is a table, and then products, TBL products, and then again it's 1 stays on 1. So the products table, I just need probably 2 for that one. Do the column rows at 2, do the list width at 4. Let's see what the difference is, and then save this. And if I have a view, let's have a look. So customer ID gives me a drop down. I can see that information. There is no customers in there at the moment, so everything's looking okay, so I can close that down. Now what I need to do before I put any data in is link these tables together, so I get myself a relational database. And to do that you need to go to database tools, click on relationships, move all your tables into position. The position is irrelevant really, it's just for ease. So now you've got a primary key in the customers table, a primary key in the products table, and a primary key in the sales table. But in the sales table, you've also got the same field, customer ID and product ID, from these. So that would be classed as a primary key. In this table, that would be called the foreign key. Now, if I want one customer to have many sales, I need to click on customer, drag it across to customer ID, let go, and then it gives you this relationship box. So basically, it's picked up one to many, which is great. You have to watch this. If this comes up with indeterminate, you better think again. So it's picking up customers and sales using that customer ID field. Great. Enforce referential integrity is really important. It means that you cannot create a customer in there that does not already exist in this table. Whether you tick these two is up to you, but basically for that one, delete, for example, if you deleted a customer, it would delete all the sales figures. So that might not be something you'd want to do in this sales table. So I'm going to leave those two blank and click on create. And I get the 1 to infinity symbol, which is what I'm after. Now to repeat that process from the products table, product ID, that's the primary key, going to the sales table, product ID, which is the foreign key. Click on that, it's picking up a one to many. Click enforce referential integrity, click create, and then that's the database set up. So what I now need to do is put some test data in these tables to see if this works how I expect it to. But first of all, let's just save this and then close that down. So if I open customers and customer name, I'll call this Bob IT 1 Red Road. Everybody lives on Red Road. Newcastle's already there as a default 0191222333. Tab off the record, so that's my first record. So I'll close that down. If I open up the products table and give myself a product, I'll call it Excel tab. Say I've got 10, the price is £100, puts the pound sign in, and so that works okay. Close that down. Now the trick here is, does the sales work? So this is the first sale, selecting that down. So there's a lookup. Look, I'm going to put the number 1 in there, but it's telling me that is Bob IT, which is correct. I want that. And then this is doing the same, product 1, and then I want 5. And the date of purchase, if I just tab into that and use control semicolon, that gives me the date I bought that. And if I press tab, that's great, that gives me that. Now what I don't have at the moment is a price of what that 5 is. So if I close this down, this is where queries come into play. I now want to create a query. So if I go create query design, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to bring on the 3 tables, and when I do that, you'll see that it automatically brings on the links. There's a joining table going there, the sales. So that's it. You can see that. Let's just get rid of these properties for a minute and this add tables. So what I need to do is bring the fields that I want to see into this query by example grid. So let's go for customer ID, customer name. Just bring them down. And then from the products table, I'll bring down product and price. And then from the from the sales table, just quantity. I'll bring that down, and you might want the date of purchase. I'll just bring that down as well. So if I quickly have a look at that, what's that going to show me? So it's telling me the price of 5, quantity, it was bought on that day. So that's brought all the information through from those tables, but what I need to do is work out what the total price is going to be. So if I go back into design, in this blank column at the end, I basically want to look at the price and multiply it by the quantity, but these are coming from 2 different tables. Now it's easier to use the expression builder, as it used to be called, it's just called builder now, to do this, although you can actually physically type it yourself. It's totally up to you. But if I go into the builder, you'll see why you might want to use the builder. So what you've got in this area is expression elements, and then this is your categories. So what you've basically got to do is find the tables. These are your tables. So I want to know basically the sales quantity, and you see what it does there, it puts table sales in square brackets with an exclamation and then the field in square brackets. So that's going to be times the product's price, the product's price. So if I go into there, that's going to put the table's product price. Click OK to that. Let's just have a quick look, see if that worked. So this should say 500. It hasn't got a title yet and it is not formatted to currency. So if I go back into design, I'll give it a title. Now if you can't see what you're doing here, you can just do Shift F2 and that'll just zoom that up, and then you can change that title to whatever you want, total sales or whatever. Click OK to that. The properties, if I go into properties, click on properties, have a look at format, select that to currency, close that off, run it again, just have a quick look. Yeah. So now we know that's working, we can save this query. So I'll just go and save it, and it's going to be QRY sales details, like so. Click OK, and then we can close that down. Now if I add a few more customers and a few more products and then do a few more sales, let's fill that up a little bit more. Okay, so I've added a couple more customers. These are more customers, and a couple of more products. There's some more products, and then I've done one more sale, so you can see the extra sale I've done there. And I'm just going to do another one so you can see how this works now. So I've got a few customers to look at. That's what the lookup does. So I'll go for fix it. The product can be Word. I can have 5 of those. Today's date is control semicolon. Tab off the record always. Close the sales down, and then open up the query, and all that information should have been picked up, and then you've got your scores on the doors there. So that's how it builds up. You create your tables, you link your tables together, you interrogate the data with a query, and then to input data, you might want to input it through a form and output this data. Instead of outputting it like that, you might want to generate a report. So let's have a quick look at forms. Close that one down for a second. So forms, 2 types of forms, an input form and a navigation form. So we're just going to do the input form. So instead of typing a customer in like a spreadsheet, we're going to use it through a different interface. It's still going to go into that table, but you'll see how it works. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. If I use the wizard, if I go create form, so that's me doing it myself, form design, but I'll just use the wizard, not the wizard, but the actual auto form it used to be called. I'll click on that. It just generates a form based on the table, and look at that, it's already picked up the sales that I've made for this customer. So that's really good. Now it's done that because it's picking up the relationship that we did in this window. So that's great. So now for each customer, down the bottom here you've got the records. If I click on next, that's add IT, and that's their sales, and that's fix it. So it's got 3 customers there, and I'll just go back to the first one. So if they've got more than 1 sales, it would be listed in a subtable. So what I need to do is close this and save it. Yes. So this is going to be FRM in front of all of this, form, FRM, and then click OK, and then you can see how that works. So now if I just open it, so what I can do now is for Bob IT, that's the record I'm on, I can just, because I've got a subform, I can just select that form and just put the details in here like so. Make sure you tab off it, otherwise it's pending. And then if I go on to the next record, I can do the same for that. You know, you can just basically use this now to input data, and then put today's date for everything, tab off. Now if I close the form down, what's happened there is, if I go into the sales table, open that sales tables, what I've just been doing is just gone into there. And if I open up the query that we did earlier, open the query, that can up all those additional sales, and your prices are now coming in there. You can see how that's changed. So everything's working fine. So that form is just an input mechanism for a customer. Now products, we haven't got a form for products, but let's just do that for products. If I click on create, so I've highlighted it first, I've not opened it, do the same thing. That's coming up with the product itself, and it's also got the sales data underneath, but you can utilize this to input a new product or something like that. So if I go on to product 2, you can see there's been 2 sales on that, like so, and that's again because we've done the link in the relationship window and it's picking that up, which is why you do it. I've seen some databases, I'll just save this table, I've seen some databases where they don't do that sort of link at that level, and then they're constantly doing queries and adding the links. Personally, I don't think that's the way to do it, but you can do it that way. Click OK. I think it makes more sense to do it in the database relational window, because whatever's in here is picked up on all these objects as we're doing them, as you can see. So close that down. So the last thing we haven't done in this little bit is a report. So there's your sales data so far. Now you've got this, if I print this off in a report, that will give me all the sales, all the times. In a later session I'll show you how you can get this just to be one customer, or you can get it by date. Lots of different options, but for now I'm just going to create a basic report and using the wizard to generate a report. So this is not the report wizard, I keep saying wizard, sorry about that, that's stepping it through step by step. This is the auto report, it used to be called. It just generates the thing. It's not pretty, and as you can see there, it's cascaded over 2 pages and it's slightly truncated, and even if I use the wizard it would do exactly the same as that. But that's just the idea of a report is you have your company branding on this, and then this is what you would give to the customer if you was going to email it to them. You can email this as a PDF or whatever in Access, from Access. So let's just save this. If I close it, it will ask if I want to save it. Yes, and I'll put RPT in the front of that. RPT. Okay, and then any changes to the data. So if I just count how many records was there, so there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sales altogether. So when I add extra things in, that will pick it up. So if I go into the customers table, for example, and do another couple of sales for this person, so let's pick a different item, let's get 5 of them, control semicolon. So I've now added some extra sales. Make sure you tab off that last record, close the form, or close the form. The report should have picked that up, and there you go, it has picked it up. So every time you do anything, that's how Access works. You create the tables, you ask the questions through a query, you input data into the tables through a form, your management output is through a report. And on the next session I'll spend a bit more time making these reports look really cool. But that's all I want to talk about so far. So that's the basic structure that we want. Everything else is adding onto it and making it nicer and more user friendly and more efficient. So hopefully this little video has been of use. Thank you for your time. I'll catch you in the next one.